Number 10. Game Boy shoes. I'm not the most fashionable guy on the planet. I'm just a simple guy who likes simple things, so you can understand my shock, my horror, and my confusion when I saw the Game Boy shoes. Yes, that's right. Remember the Game Boy? Picking a starter Pokemon for the first time. That was a really serious choice. The very same portable console that changed your childhood could now sit snug as a bug in your platform shoe. I have several issues with this. One, can someone send me a working Game Boy? I miss those games, man. Come on, those are really cool. I want one. Number 2, it just looks ugly. No shot, you roll up to somebody's house with those bad boys and they go, yeah, you're cool, dude. You look great. You don't. Number 3, maybe this is fine to wear in sunny California, but in Canada, the Game Boy would spend most of its time in snow. Or puddles. I couldn't do that to such a beautiful piece of gaming history. I would never forgive myself. Number 9. Are you winning, son? Is something your dad and every dad has said when checking on their kid playing games on a Sunday afternoon. Naturally, not knowing what a video game is or what a Pikachu does is just part of being a dad. However, next time dad decides to go on one of his fishing trips, you should surprise him with the Game Boy Fish Finder. Yeah, I know, another Game Boy gadget, but I had to. Every dad says they caught the big one, and they're not talking about your mom. But now dad can see them coming. Imagine spending hours in the summer sun on a lake with your dad, and the only thing that was distracting you from his developing drinking issue is now being used to find fish. But sometimes Nintendo likes to do weird stuff. Remember when the Wii came out? It was kind of weird. Loved it though. But a fish finder? This is only something a 90s fever dream could come up with. I'm just not sure about that one. Number 8. Floppy disks. Going with a lot of tech today, but stuff like this defined the later half of the century. Why are floppy disks on this list? Well, because it was arguably just as important as the PCs that revolutionized computers. And it's silly to think that how storage that small was so useful. Storage on floppy disks varied from different models over the years, but for an example, one model held 1.44 megabytes. Today in 2022, we are arguably in the beginning of the terabyte era. Now, try putting more than 5 AAA games on your Xbox, am I right? Gigabytes just aren't enough anymore. Now, if you crunch some numbers, a 1 terabyte flash drive has over 1 million MG, which, if we do even more math, is just under 700,000 floppy disks to our modern equivalent. The math is a little rough, but my point is clear. We've come a long way. Well, turns out that they were still somewhat being used up until 2019. I know, that's what I said. The US and whatever mysterious forces are in charge of nuclear weapons were still using them up until 2019. I feel like that's the wrong thing to put in charge of nuclear weapons. A floppy disk for nukes? That just feels like a bad idea. Number 7. Dial P for Palpatine. I just wanted to give you guys some more Palpatine. I think you guys really like it. But something that I don't know if our viewers experienced, but let us know if you did. This is kind of interesting actually, but the creation of 911. Honestly, what did people do before that? Pick up the phone and like, operator, help! Help, my house is on fire! Okay, sir, hold on, we'll just connect you. Okay, thanks. This is the fire department. Help, help, my house is on fire! Well, thanks to the totally non-corrupt and fairly priced AT&T, a nationwide number was decided to be the best for dialing emergencies and not waiting for an operator or any other option like screaming for help. A senator made the first 911 call on February 16th, 1968, which sounds like a long time ago, and it is, but it also kinda isn't. I don't know, that's kinda weird. Number 6. I am the destroyer of worlds. I mean, this is kind of a big one, literally. It's the reason why there hasn't been a World War III since, or why there will never be a World War IV, because there would just be nothing left. What am I talking about, of course? Jello mold foods. Nah, I'm just kidding, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about nuclear weapons with the capabilities to wipe out an entire city with the flip of a button. Part of the super secret Manhattan Project, the goal was to make a weapon so destructive that whoever was unfortunate enough to catch a case of the super weapon would surrender immediately. Japan would unfortunately be on the receiving side of this, and shortly thereafter surrendered World War II. Imagine though, the power to level an entire city in just a few seconds. It's something unthinkable just a few years before. Some might even call it an act of biblical proportions. And you wouldn't be that far off either.
Number 5. Ancient Greek fire. Okay, this one's pretty epic. It's not, I mean, it's horrible. It's pretty rough history here, but definitely interesting nonetheless. Greek fire was used by the Eastern Roman Empire from the 7th to the 12th century. Now, the formula for Greek fire was a closely guarded secret, which is like so villainous, but it's believed to have contained petroleum, quicklime, and other combustible substances, all in one soup, just a big hot mess. Something you don't want to drop, really, ideally. Greek fire was delivered using a flamethrower-like device on a boat called a siphon, and it was capable of igniting on water, making it a very reliable weapon against any ship out there. Yeah, they would shoot hot fire through a giant syringe at enemy ships. Ancient history is cool, it's impressive, but it's also, most of the time, brutal. It's disgusting. My God. Number 4, mechanical clocks. Look, we all love an hourglass. All right, I love an hourglass. Playing a board game with the family, you aggressively flip that thing down. No better feeling, right? Tick-tock, sands a swirling. But why don't we have an hourglass anymore? Why don't we use those? Those are pretty sweet. It's a pretty amazing invention. Let's talk about those for a bit. During the medieval period, the invention of mechanical clocks revolutionized timekeeping and replaced the use of hourglasses. One guy's like, what? I love these though. That's me, I'm the guy. Mechanical clocks were first invented in Europe in the 13th century, and they were initially used in public spaces, like churches, town squares, stuff like that. These early clocks relied on the energy generated by falling weights to power their movements. Yeah, you're not gonna have one of these next to your bed. Not for a while, at least. Mechanical clocks allowed for more precise timekeeping and helped standardize time across different regions, but back then it was scary. Back then it was weights and big things bonging around above your head. It's like, what time is it? I don't know. The only one we got. Number 3. The blast furnace. This one was also quite important. All these are pretty important, but this one's, wasn't used to destroy a human being, so it's good. The blast furnace. It's a medieval invention that revolutionized the production of iron, which is so key. We love that over here in Steamville with iron everywhere. I don't know, there's trains literally all around us. It was first introduced in Europe during the 14th century, and it quickly became a game changer. The furnace's design allowed for higher temperatures and more efficient use of fuel, leading to increased iron production and, most importantly, lower costs, which, yeah, blacksmiths love this, they hate this one trick. The blast furnace would also enable the production of higher quality iron that was suitable in wider ranges of applications, which again, we love that. We love when iron just stays in one spot. Usually it's how we like our iron. We made better, faster iron. I don't know, what a day. That sounds like a Daft Punk song. Harder, better, faster iron. This invention spread across Europe, of course, with many regions becoming iron production hot zones. A lot of blacksmiths in the area, a lot of beards. Single blacksmiths in your area. Just swipe, here we go. Number 2, the printing press. I'm not a fan of homework, but I get it. It's gotta be done sometime. The printing press, of course we have to include this. This was a revolutionary invention during, again, the medieval period that allowed for the mass production of books and pamphlets. I love pamphlets, thank God. Love me a good pamphlet. I love flipping things only thrice and then closing it. That's it. No more than 3. Invented by Johannes Gutenberg in the mid-15th century, the printing press could reproduce text more quickly, and again, it was pretty cheap considering what came before. You had to pay a guy to do everything. That's crazy. You gotta listen to him all day? No. You gotta feed him? No. This had quite the impact on society and enabled wider access to knowledge, the spread of ideas, and it contributed to the growth of literacy, which again, we love that. Still leading towards that one. The printing press played a key role in the Renaissance and the Protestant Reformation, and it may or may not have helped lay the foundation for the modern world. So I guess, yeah, we can put this close to number 1, I would say, or number 2 is pretty good. And finally, number 1, flutes. Yeah, we're ending on flutes, the best, right? We had to learn it for 3 years in school. Why? Couldn't tell you. No idea, we had to do it though. Music has been in the air for a very, very long time. Neanderthals enjoyed a flute every now and then. Who would have thunk? They weren't playing We Three Kings like us, but they were making music as early as 50,000 years ago, which is just baffling. The first instrument known to man was most likely our vocal cords, but the second instrument were the flutes of Geistenkloster Cave. They're the oldest musical instruments ever that have ever been discovered, period. They were made from bird bone and the ivory of a mammoth. Yeah, if that's any indication how old they are, they made music out of mammoth ivory. Again, I still can't play the recorder. I never learned. I was useless. My fingers were too long. I'd always slip off the holes. I got Jack Skellington fingers. I can't play a recorder. No way. Number 10, ancient telescope. The Nimrod lens. It's a 3,000-year-old rock crystal lens discovered in modern-day Iraq in the mid-1800s. Now, it was discovered quite recently, but back then, this thing was like ancient technology. Today we have the James Webb Space Telescope. 3,000 years ago, they were more advanced than we think. The lens is believed to have been made by a Syrian craftsman sometime around 750 BC. It's the oldest known example right now of a magnifying lens, which is Sounds kind of nerdy, but that's cool. That's kind of one of those facts that makes me go, oh, interesting, I like that. Up until then, everybody was just squinting a lot, really. We didn't have anything to zoom in on. The lens is quite small in size. It's no James Webb, that's for sure. It's around 3 centimeters in diameter and a focal length of 12 centimeters. So again, not James Webb, but it was something, right? It was anything. The exact purpose of the Nimrod lens is still up for debate. That's still unknown, but it's thought to have been used for decorative or ceremonial purposes, or possibly, hopefully, magnifying things to study small objects, because that's science right there. It's technology. The Nimrod lens is the first example of ancient optical technology. That's cool. Imagine building that. That's crazy. Number 9, the iron pillar. Remember when monoliths started to appear all around the world? We were all talking about it for like a month and then we just stopped. What happened with that? That's concerning. This next one rings a similar bell. The Iron Pillar of Delhi. It's a 7.3 meter tall iron column and it's located in the Qutb complex in Delhi, India. Now it went up sometime during the Gupta period, so sometime around the 3rd and 4th century AD. And it's been standing for over 1600 years without rusting or corroding at all, which is impressive. That and like the Egyptian pyramids, we have no idea how this happened. The column is notable for its high quality iron compositions and advanced forging techniques used to create it. We still can't figure out just how that was done, considering how long ago it was made. The iron pillar is also covered in several inscriptions in the Sanskrit language, which is pretty exciting, providing valuable ancient history about the Gupta Empire, and also, again, in remarkable condition, which is super rare. The pillar attracts visitors from all over the world. Want to go see a pillar? I kind of want to go see a pillar now. That'd be a crazy trip. Number 8, the Antikythera mechanism. Computers today, we can fit them in our pockets, but ancient Greek analog computers, apparently you can also fit those in your pockets. Who knew? The Antikythera mechanism was used to predict astronomical positions and eclipses for calendrical and astrological purposes. That sounds scientific, wow. It was discovered in 1901 in the Antikythera shipwreck, hence its name, and it's estimated to have been built around 150 and 100 BC. Now the mechanism consists of at least 30 bronze gears, and it was operated by turning a crank. This is, again, like ancient technology. This is amazing. It's rusty and full of barnacles now, but back then in its prime, this mechanism would accurately display the positions of the sun, the moon, and planets on specific dates, as well as predict solar and lunar eclipses. Some guy in the back's like, spoilers, it's tomorrow. Told you. The mechanism is considered a remarkable technological achievement for its time and provides valuable insights into the history of ancient Greek astronomy and technology, all in one rusty box right there. Think of what we haven't found yet, you know what I mean? I'm nervous. I'm so nervous. Humans are quite advanced. Number 7, ancient seismoscope. Zhanghang seismoscope is an ancient Chinese instrument that was used to detect and measure earthquakes. And it looked pretty badass. I'm not gonna lie, this thing looks pretty cool. It was invented by renowned scientist, mathematician, and astronomer Zhanghang. It was made during the Han Dynasty around 132 CE. The seismoscope consisted of a bronze vessel that rested on the back of a bronze dragon, with 8 open-mouthed toads positioned beneath it. Yeah, it's scientific, but it's also a beautiful instrument, right? Like I said, it's badass. So when an earthquake would happen, a mechanism inside the vessel would trigger the release of the ball from one of the toad's mouths, indicating the direction of the earthquake. You'd be like, nah, that way. And everyone would be like, okay, cool. Let's go this way then. Today it's a little different. Today it's fun. It's just graphs and charts. Looks like some avatar technology, whatever. No toads puking up any balls in any direction, so ergo boring. Number 6, the Baghdad battery, also known as the Parthian battery. This is an ancient device that would go back to 248 BC. Why am I doing this? Am I Italian? Am I Steve Jobs? I'm walking around like, yes, I invented this. Look at my loose wrist here. Why do I gotta keep these down? Keep these at bay here. The battery consists of a clay jar, a copper cylinder, and an iron rod, all of which were found together in what is now modern day Iraq. It's believed that the device was used to generate an electric current by filling the jar with an acidic liquid like vinegar or wine. I sound like Bill Nye the Science Guy right now, but then they would insert copper and iron components after, and then they would make electricity. They would make, I don't know, here, Tony Stark would make this. I don't know, it's crazy. The purpose of the Baghdad battery is still unknown, which is fascinating. I won't be able to sleep at night now, but it's thought to have been used for electroplating or medicine or as a religious artifact. And today we're like, well, we have no idea. This is the stuff that I love. Old, ancient, like this sounds like something from Breath of the Wild that I would find. Number 5, Neanderthal spears and arrows. Okay, we'll get into the more important stuff, the things that stuck around. Sure. Perhaps one of the most vital inventions of all time, one we for sure still use today. Arrows and or spears, they were a necessity when it came to hunting back then. For people in Stone Age, all they needed was wood, really. Then they'll just do the rest. So impressive. So what they would do is they would carve a leaf shape or a triangle at the tip of this wood, and they were used mainly by riders or barefoot hunters. But when it came to hunting, well, you didn't want to get too close to your prey, or else, the wrong team would be claiming victory and eating the other for lunch. So their solution here was to throw these spears or make really tiny ones. Yeah, you can either javelin something really hard or hang back a bit and shoot some arrows into some animals' knees. The latter is a bit more safe. The oldest bows in history are from 9000 BC. They're the home guard bows, and they're found in Northern Europe all the way from the Mesolithic period. The oldest spears, however, they come from Germany about 400,000 years ago. They're actually the oldest wooden artifacts in history. Ever. Yeah, imagine being the first person to make a spear. Forget iPhones or iPods. A spear? Humanity. Look at this. I made it. Number 4. Penicillin. Also a pretty good invention, I'll admit. This one's pretty great. Sometimes miracles happen when nobody is looking. Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin back in 1928, but at the time he was actually studying Staphylococcus bacteria that causes infections and boils. But right before Alexander left for a 2-week vacation, he left a petri dish with some of that Staphylococcus on the table, rather than stored away in an incubator like he should have. Now, during this time off, a penicillium mold spore just drifted in there through a window or the lab stairwell. Some Horton Here's a Who type commute, whatever, got in the room somehow, some way, and the temperature of the room and the lack of one Alexander Fleming allowed for the mold to settle, fight back, and prevent that bacteria from growing furthermore. He discovered when he got back this antibacterial substance was only produced by strains of penicillium. And now we're a little safer because of it, I'd say. Yeah, he did some good stuff. Number 3, earthquake machine. Nikola Tesla. The man, he knew a thing or two about electricity, and legend has it, he made a steam-powered machine that could cause small earthquakes. Yeah, you thought I was gonna say machine where it could sense them. No, he made one that could cause them. A little bit of a villain move, I'd say. Science. Also, I guess that's science too. Tesla's electromechanical oscillator, or earthquake machine as I call it. It's a little more cool. Legend has it he actually did cause a real earthquake back in 1898 in New York. That's an Avengers level threat right there. Can anyone stop this man? It's Nikola Tesla. Do we stop him? Do we let him go? I don't even know at this point. Tesla told this at his 79th birthday party, according to his biographer. And there's no science that supports these claims, but they're quite fun to share. Apparently, he had a machine that made you, out of your, in your pants. There was a machine that made you, and then you, and then you had to clean up some stuff. The vibrations on this machine was basically a massive taser, and it caused your muscles to clench up. So in other words, you had to change your pants if you use this one. He's a villain. This guy's a villain now that I'm saying this out loud. Number 2, Neanderthal flutes. Yes, music. Where did music come from, right? Music's been in the air for quite a long time, and Neanderthals enjoyed a flute every now and then, it seems. They weren't playing We Three Kings, but they were making music, or some sort of sounds, as early as 50,000 years ago. The first instrument known to man was most likely our vocal cords, but the second one were the flutes of Gist-and-Clouster Cave. They're the oldest musical instruments that have ever been discovered. They were made from bird bone and the ivory of a mammoth, so if that's any indication of how old they are, they made music out of mammoth ivory. Mammoth, the thing that's extinct, and I still can't even sing. Look at that. And finally, number 1, Neanderthal glass. Perhaps the most impressive. This has been on my mind for a while. Imagine making glass for the first time. You would have thought that you were a wizard. I watch glass blowing shows now, and I think that they're wizards. It looks like wizardry. It's crazy. The guy that blows the air into it, they gotta have the spotlight on him more. He's doing some crazy work back there. Glass that was naturally occurring, like obsidian for example, that was around and used during the Stone Age. But man-made glass was first used around 6,000 years ago. Archaeologists are pinning Lebanon, North Syria, ancient Egypt, all as the birthplace of synthetic glass. Now the first use of man-made glass were beads. How hilarious is that? Imagine being the first person to rock beads. Oh, the confidence. I'd put them right in front of my door and be like, don't come in. Okay, maybe. No. Mid-2000 BC, guy glazes up some beads like a wizard. What an icon. And now we have bead doors and bead necklaces. Now we have guys wearing shell necklaces too. A little different, but worth a mention. They're a little odd, those ones. Starting our list off at number 10, VR. Okay, I recently got an Oculus and I felt sick a lot. I was so dizzy right off the bat. The game's super hot where you have to throw items at bad guys. I actually got anxious. My palms were sweaty, my heart was racing. Olivia straight up cried when she tried it. It was a wild ride. This is pretty powerful technology. Black Mirror, of course, has toyed with how VR could go wrong, but The Simpsons also predicted its dangers all the way back in 2016. The episode titled Friends and Family has the town of Springfield excited over this new VR tech that's finally arrived. They're so into it that eventually people are walking in the streets while wearing these headsets. They're bumping into walls, they're smacking their heads, they're ignoring real life obligations. Cut to now, with Facebook going the virtual route recently with the introduction of the metaverse, I believe The Simpsons actually undermined the dangers for this one. Yeah, you thought pop-ups and sketchy links were bad for your family on Facebook? I don't know, soon we're gonna be walking into virtual pop-ups. That's gonna be pretty alarming. $3 billion worth of VR was sold during the pandemic alone. Connecting during times like such can be vital, but how far is too far? Which room am I in? I'm in the laundry room, like sword fighting someone. I'm like, what am I doing right now? Number 9. Drones. I mean, sure, drones can deliver packages now in like 13 minutes flat, and sure, they can fly through bowling lanes in cinematic fashion, but could drones be so advanced that we're actually mistaking them for alien aircraft? Possibly. We don't know how advanced these things are. We have no idea, not even the military. Back in the early 60s, the CIA had this secret program called Project Aqualine, where they used these small drones with a low radar cross-section, a little camera, all that spy stuff, and it was disguised as a bird, believe it or not. The first prototype was a bit obvious. It weighed over 100 pounds, it was this massive eagle-looking thing, but the only way to catch the drone was to fly it into a net, which broke something almost every single flight. Cut to 2022, it looks a little bit differently. Now there's like a bird conspiracy, people don't even believe birds are real, and there's for sure a drone pigeon out there somewhere. Number 8, 3D printing. This is something that did not exist when I was younger at all, in any way, shape, or form. All we had were those spider markers that like connect the dots that are like kind of sticky. That was it. That's the closest we had to 3D printing. Now people are printing swords in their basement. I don't know. Connor on our gaming channel, he printed a Pokeball and it looks awesome. It's a real size Pokeball. Now he has one of those because he printed it. It's becoming increasingly popular as they're becoming more accessible. Unlike the traditional printer, 3D printers are able to print and create these three-dimensional objects on the spot. It's fascinating how fast it works. This technology is continuing to advance, and some printers now have capabilities of printing out food and even organs. So that's great, but again, where is this all going? How far are we gonna go? Sounds like it's a kind of a bad idea. It feels good, but so does everybody in the first 20 minutes of a Black Mirror episode. Know what I mean? Like, oh, this technology is fascinating. Then they're like stuck in some virtual matrix for 40 years. Number 7, smart TVs. Survivor season 42, episode 5. That's it. That's how easy it is right now. That's where we're at with technology. Remember TV guides? That's gone. Ask your parents about TV guides. Watch the trauma return in their eyes when you ask them that one. I didn't know this was something that people were worried about until I looked into it. I love my smart TV. It's got all the apps. I can speak into the microphone instead of using the terrible Prime search function. I don't need cable as well. It solves so many problems and the picture is great, but not everybody feels so on board with these smart TVs. Apparently smart TVs are so smart now that they're also keeping tabs on users' viewing habits, which viewers are worried will somehow allow criminals to hack in and then steal their personal information, which more than fair. This is a new technology. I have no idea how to do it. My dad has no idea how to use smart TVs. Oh my god, that's a nightmare all the time. There might be something that I'm missing, but do I want to find out? No, I don't know. Imagine someone hacking your TV in the middle of the night. Anonymous just appears. That'd be so haunting. I would not want to get out of bed. Number 6, self-driving cars. If you own a Tesla, first of all, nice. Bravo, must be nice, that's great. But comment down below how often you actually use the self-driving feature. I imagine that it's terrifying. I don't know if I could ever use that. Just click it and just, okay, hope it works. I watched this body cam footage the other day online of someone being pulled over in a self-driving car because they were asleep at the wheel. They were asleep, but they were driving, well the car was driving, but they were having a nap. They were on their way to work asleep, you know what I mean? This is where the line gets kind of hazy. Do we want this technology to go further? I don't know. I kind of want people awake on the road. Call me old school. I mean, there are plenty of reasons why this feature makes sense, why it could be exceptionally helpful, and why, you know, there are people who are clearly on board with the idea, but there are also some things that are rightfully a major cause for concern. One of the most debated and truly one of the biggest questions surrounding this is an ethical one, like, will a self-driving car prioritize its driver over other road users in any given situation? Know what I mean? Something happens, who's it gonna prioritize? So when you're about to hit, it's gonna prioritize you. How do we make those real life decisions? We don't. Well, we do, but computers they don't.
Clear Craze was a nightmarish 90s product fad that brought up number 5, Crystal Pepsi. This soft drink was made by PepsiCo and initially released in Canada and the United States from 1992 to 1994. As a result of the 1980s to 90s clear craze, as I mentioned, this craze started because the idea of a clear product was a pure product. As we know, this is 100% not true, but Crystal Pepsi was one of the many clear and colorless products released by manufacturers such as Soapsoft, Miller Brewing Company, Palmolive, and more. In Crystal Pepsi's first year, it captured 1 full percentage point of US soft drink sales, or approximately 474 million, the equivalent to 889 million in 2021. By late 1993, the manufacturer discontinued the beverage. In 2013, a video of Kevin Strahl drinking a vintage 90s bottle of Crystal Pepsi went viral. This video alone sparked tens of thousands of petition signatures to bring the drink back. Even billboards were erected to demand for it. This interest from this campaign led to an official response to Strahl by PepsiCo on June 8th of 2015, commenting on the YouTuber and his fans' commitment and enthusiasm with the teaser of the drink's return. And so in mid-2016, Crystal Pepsi was released across the United States and Canada, promoted with a retro-style website and marketing video. The funny thing is, it tastes like normal Pepsi. You may not remember the item, but your ankles will. Number 4, the Skip It. Whew, my shins hurt just thinking about it. During its initial release in the 1980s, the Skip It toy became a commercial success through its advertisements on daytime TV such as Nickelodeon and Boomerang, as well as other children's programming. It was based off of the toy of the exact same concept, the Lemon Twist from the 1960s. A Skip It is a weighted plastic ball that ties around the ankle. A stretch of cord in between your ankle and the ball is skipped over as you swing the weighted ball around 360 in a circle. Oh yeah, those suckers could whip back at any second and give you a bruise that even a Razor scooter could be envious of giving. Sometimes they were super fancy, making noise, having cool designs, or flashing lights, things of that nature, for the cool kids of 4th grade. Time magazine included it in their 100 greatest toys ever, and it's actually still available for purchase today, but considerably less common and less popular. The equivalent of psychedelic for a preteen was Lisa Frank items. Number 3. Girls growing up in the 90s had access to what may be history's most vibrant and eclectic eras of fashion and baubles. Baby Fat, the Delia's catalog, Wet Seal low-rise jeans, and of course, Lisa Frank. Their endless products included everything from stickers and 3-ring binders to jewelry and clothing. All featured the iconic brand signature aesthetic of cute, cuddly animals in bright colors and patterns amidst black color blocking. Lisa Frank herself was only 24 when she incorporated her name into a franchise, and it's in the same year that she received its first $1 million order from Spencer's Gifts, aka she was a smash success from day one. Lisa Frank's popularity took a dip with the rise of digital era. The company receded into smaller collaborations and was mostly underground, but strongly resurged in the 2010s. Since there's been brand collabs with Crocs, Urban Outfitters, BlendJet, Morph Makeup, and even Pillsbury Sugar Cookies. If you've managed to hold on to some of your Lisa Frank items from childhood, you'd be surprised to know that some of them have gone up in value and are worth a pretty penny now. Number 2 is a trip to Orbit and the bathroom, because this can't have been good for your stomach. This is for my Canadians. The 90s was a creative era for many things, especially beverages. Companies explored unforeseen parameters of flavor and aesthetics, and so we see the Orbit soda not soda beverage thing. It was a Canadian beverage and it was short-lived, both coming out and being discontinued in the same year of 1997. It's a clear drink, clear craze things, that's chock full of sugar and had bright colored gelatin balls suspended and floating mysteriously. It was fruit flavored, but I'll be honest, these are the last flavors I expected to read when I was researching this product. Blackcurrant berry, blueberry, melon, strawberry, pineapple, banana, cherry, coconut, raspberry, citrus, and vanilla orange. That is intense. No wonder these drinks were short-lived because of their overwhelming flavor combinations and weird floating orbs. Lava lamps are fun to look at, but no one wants to drink one. But if you do, hit eBay. You can still find unsealed Orbit's drinks there, running you an average of $50 a bottle. And number 1 is the Windows Start Maze Screensaver. Ah yes, the back rooms. Maybe this screensaver is why so many of us find a fascination with that concept. Anyways, if you had a desktop computer in or around the time of 1995 and 6, you're likely familiar with this endless maze screensaver. While the graphics may be painful to look at now, they were top-notch visual at the time, like a 4D roller coaster. The default setting for the maze is a textured with brick walls and a wood floor and its asbestos tile ceiling. Users can customize these textures, swapping them out for animated psychedelic patterns in later versions, or maybe create their own custom textures. The walls are lined with art, some random plants, and statues. The maze is randomly generated each time, with the player navigating it in first person, spawning in front of a floating start button. After starting, it automatically traverses using the right hand rule, which will guarantee the maze will eventually be solved because all randomly generated mazes are simply connected. This bizarre maze was perfect to zone out to for hours, or be the basis of creepypastas and spooky stories. I'm sure many 90s kids watching have their own memories of this creepy yet neat screensaver. And to start us at number 10 is the car phone. Our first dabbling with mobile phones ironically came in the form of our vehicles. These funky and clunky phones could be carried in briefcases that were to be stored and charged in the car, or were straight up just built into it. This could be in the center or backseat console, the dashboard, the driver's side door, endless possibilities. The car phone was at its best and most high-tech during the 90s, and was definitely part of the very important technology for very important people fad and mindset. If you weren't born to see them in person, perhaps you've seen them in 90s film and TV hits, shows like Seinfeld and Friends, and iconic scenes like in Die Hard when Bruce Willis is saving the day and they flip to a shot of Argyle oblivious of the chaos above whilst talking to his sweet honey on the car phone. I hope you have fast reflexes, because Bop It is number 9. Originally invented in 1996, this handheld toy quickly became worldwide success and a popular toy, models of it winning numerous awards for electronic toys and games. To jog your memory or teach some new folks, the original game of Bop It has 3 main features. Bop It was a button on the side, Twist It was a twisting handle on the lower left side, and Pull It was a pullable handle near the top. The device would call out one of the 3 instructions, increasing the speed as the game progressed. Whenever the player fumbled or missed the call, the game was over. Players' scores are announced at the end of the gameplay with a cipher in which different tones represent different point values, and the maximum possible score is 100. The 3 were spread enough to require quick reflex and have 3 game modes: solo play, multiplayer play, and beat bopping, which followed a musical tone. This game was the first of what was later to become a series of Bop It games relying on the same set of basic patents. For number 8, it's the Palm Pilot. Let's take a second and remember this pre-cell phone, the grandmother of handheld digital devices. PDAs, personal digital assistants for my young people, were truly beloved of the 90s, but none more so than the Palm Pilot, which took everyone by storm. A businessman glued to his Palm Pilot was an ongoing cliche in 90s movies. They could check emails, work on documents, they had little games on them as well. They came with a writing stylus that would only work on the screen of that device. Convenient until you lost yours and had to go out and buy a new one. Yes, they truly had all the features of a futuristic parking meter with its unlit display and few hundred kilobytes. This device is laughable if you have an 8GB phone, because you have the memory storage of 16,000 Palm Pilots. The toy that could get us all out of absences at school, Talk Boy, is number 7, the perfect symbol of 90s tech. Clunky, obsolete, tied to a beloved 90s franchise, and featuring a payoff that, for the time, was an amazing novelty. It was seriously just a video cassette in a little player upon which you could record and play back your own voice or somebody else's. No part of that setup is still relevant whatsoever. The audio recorder only had 2 features: speeding and slowing down recorded vocals. But that was good enough to pull off a few unbelievable pranks, pretend to be your parents on the phone, or mess with some bullies, as was shown to us all by Kevin McAllister in Home Alone 2. The second this chunky device was used in the hit franchise, it had kids everywhere clamoring to have one. And lest we forget, the Talk Boy also had a cooler, sleeker cousin, the Yak Bag, which could only record a few seconds of sound and play it forward or backwards like an auditory Vine or TikTok of 90s audio toys. Number 6, annoying but efficient, beepers. Also called pagers, these devices were fantastic for reaching someone right away. How they worked was a call or email is forwarded to the pager, a message comes in with a number to call. Although hardly used anymore, pagers remain one of the most reliable forms of communication available, and are still widely used by doctors, as there's no delay in delivery, no network overload, and no dead zones. They had to be reachable at all times, but only in an archaic, indirect way. Someone pages you, and then you have to go find a telephone and call them back. You also definitely kept a list of all the codes you needed to understand in the messages you received in your back pocket. That's why when you've watched medical dramas, there's always that scene of a doctor being paged, checking the mini radio frequency device, and then suddenly running away. If someone had a pager, they were usually important or needed it for work, but most people had them by the late 90s. People used to say beep me, and it was a really cool thing. Meanwhile, today's grade schoolers are walking around with fully functioning iPhones like they're expecting a call from Rihanna at any second.
Number 5, Google Glass. Smart eyewear technology, that's cool. You want to feel like Tony Stark? Sure, I get the idea. Ideally, when it's worked out, this pair of shades can make you a little bit of a superhero, okay? It's able to display information and content in a similar way that a smartphone would, only, hands-free. It would be only voice control, wearing a heads-up display like Google Glass or even a modified version of VR. Now or later, I don't know if I'm on board, to be honest with you. These can contribute to eye fatigue and may cause visual confusion. And also, this may mess with your memories, scientists say. You'll get a pop-up in the middle of your kid's first birthday and your whole memory is just ruined forever, you know what I mean? I don't want that. I don't want a computer or notifications anywhere around me. My phone's bad enough, let alone Google Glass. Middle of a conversation, a really dirty pop-up comes up. You're getting coffee with your parents, you're like, close, please. Number 4, robots. Oh god, here we go. We're at a point now where robots can straight up do parkour. Boston Dynamics is trending every other week. Half the time I can't tell if their videos are real or fake. These robots are just too impressive. Sophia the robot. Yeah, she's been on talk shows. She's a fun time. Let's talk about her for a bit. Sophia the robot is the first robot to ever receive citizenship from a country. Can you believe that? She's legally from Saudi Arabia. Sophia is a citizen, and this robot citizen was on talk shows saying how she wants to destroy humans. And then everybody around on the talk show laughed and went along with the bit. Could this slowly be underway? Is this a marketing ploy? I don't know. Either way, I don't like when robots say again, hey, call me old school. I don't like when robots do shit. Number 3, flying cars. Where we're going, we still need roads. Ideally, Marty, let's do it. Even scarier than self-driving cars. Cars that fly. I never want this, personally. I can't even parallel park now, let alone in the air. Know what I mean? This idea started to get real back in 2017. You may have seen it online. The concept of a futuristic hover car was revealed officially. It was called the Renault Float Car, and it wasn't as cool as we thought, but it's a step, definitely a step forward. There's numerous companies working on a floating car right now, and to be honest, by 2024, we could actually see these things on the road. So heads up or forward. I don't know. Just stay awake on the road. Just drive, please. Number 2, mood rings. Okay, for these last 2, we're gonna jazz it up a little bit. I'm gonna pick 2 inventions that thought they changed the game, but really, they didn't at all. This 70s invention was a real gem. Pun, we got it. The mood ring, as far as fads go, not the best, not the worst. It's nothing like our number 1 spot, but it's quite close. The stone that would change its appearance due to your body heat. That was the magic of it. But some folk actually let this ring make decisions for them in real life. The mood ring was the bee's knees all around town. Joshua Reynolds and Maurice Ambatz created them in 1975. They added some love, or some lies rather, to the mix, and now we got a popular fad. Yellow meant that you were nervous. Blue meant that you were relaxed. And red obviously meant that you were mad, right? Of course, take your ring back and your $8. They sold 40 million rings in just a few months alone, making around $20 million in sales. All for a ring that just likes your body heat. My mood ring says that I'm angry after hearing that fact. So let's move on. Finally, number 1, silly bands. Oh boy, where do I even start with these ones? I remember taking part of this craze when I was in high school. I had like 11 of these all wrapped around. 0 circulation, but you know what? I was cool. They were literally just rubber bands that made a silly shape. And most of the time, the shapes weren't even that silly. It would just be an anchor or a hammer. That's not silly at all. The same team that made the Live Strong bracelets were responsible for silly bands, and by 2010, thousands of stores were selling them. It was hot. You couldn't even buy these things, honestly. They were sold out, I remember. I was part of the mob trying to get those silly bananas. Classrooms had to ban these because they were too distracting. How embarrassing is that? The iPad came out in 2010, yet they had to ban silly bands in the classroom. We love it. Silly bands made over 100 million a year. I'd say it's worth it for that guy. The guy's swimming inside of his house now because we wanted the $ shape wrapped around our wrist for some reason. So you know what? He got us. Eat the rich. I'm like, yeah, eat the rich, but stop buying silly bands at the same time. Know what I mean? Number 10, daylight motion pictures. I saw Avatar 2 last night, and I shit you not, the lights did not turn off for the first 5 minutes of the movie. Yeah, it was chaos. People were yelling, ushers were throwing their visors at the lights. It was chaos on Pandora. You need complete darkness to enjoy a movie. For personal preference, obviously, but for the projector's sake, we need to see the damn light, okay? It has to work. Back in the 1910s, daylight motion pictures were normal for a hot minute. Can you believe that? This trend moved across the country right after a bill was passed. So theaters went from dark and enjoyable to bright enough that you can now see who's sitting next to you in 4K with your real eyes in a bright room. It was a safety hazard for theaters to not have the lights on. Can you imagine if this stuck around? I would be so pissed. Just this bright the entire movie. We're like, all right, I think it's the Avengers. I don't know. Number 9, spray on hair. The babes are back. Yeah, that's what this real advertisement says about spray on hair. The babes are back. Look, I'm 28 and I know that a lot of guys have bad luck hair-wise at this age. This spray is not the solution, okay? This spray is not it. Just don't, this isn't it, my guy. This early 1990s product did not sweep the nation. Men did not regain their youth for $39.99 plus shipping. Didn't happen. It just looked like spray painted cobwebs. You know what I mean? It was like wet. It was very Halloween wet. It had like that damp, dewy morning look. I don't know. The advertisement legit says the babes are back. Yeah, which implies that the babes noticed his bald spot, decided as a group, you know, they had a meeting, made it official, and then they all left. Which is just not true. Women love bald guys. Vin Diesel, The Rock, Patrick Stewart, Professor X, are you kidding me? He summons the babes back. He's like, come. Number 8, ab belts. All right, here we go. Perfect product for the guys who want an 8-pack without doing any of the work. Just gotta shake your shit around. This is horrible. You're gonna shit your pants doing this. The ab belt sounds too good to be true, and that's because scientifically it is. Ab belts in the 90s were as hot as Tom Hanks was at the time. It was crazy. Everybody had one of these in their household. I think we may have had one growing up, now that I think of it. An ab belt, did I have it? Maybe. I don't know what it was. We also had a bowling ball growing up, so I don't know, parents are weird in the 90s. Science can confirm that wearing an ab belt has no real benefit whatsoever. It does not make you strong like Thor. That's not how it works at all. If your company is thinking about making false claims, well, expect real lawsuits to follow. Number 7, walking sleeping bag. Dare I say, a perfect gift for the sleepwalker in the household. Here we go. A sleeping bag, but with footholes and a face hole. Also, no holes for the arms, just legs and face holes. That's it, 1, 2, 3. I can't think of a more dangerous product to possibly sell. Now, as somebody who has broken his front teeth twice, I can say with full confidence this is the worst product in history. One misstep and you're just watching your oncoming doom right in front of you, and you can't even stop with your hands. I get it on paper, this thing sounds cozy for a few minutes, and sure, I guess it's fun, but what about when you can't find the zipper inside? Then what? Now you're David Copperfield and you're trying to escape death. I hate sleeping bags in general. Do you sleep in sleeping bags? I hope not. If so, get out. I don't know, get a blanket. I don't know, I put myself into a hole. Number 6, portable record players. Remember when iPods came out and it was like 1,000 songs in your pocket? That was a big deal. That actually changed the game. You know, technology-wise, that was it. We went up from there. Portable record players, not so much. That's like 8 songs in your pocket. That's really nothing in comparison right there. Back in the 80s, right before cassette players and Walkmans hit the street, this was the only way to listen to music on the go. That would really suck. That's horrible. That's like a really hot period of time there. And it looks so silly too, obviously. The thing's so big. I don't think records are meant to be on your person with headphones. Like, what are you, Mozart? What are you doing? What is this that you have attached to your waist? It looks like an IED. Get this off. This is terrible. A portable record player is not a good idea, now or then. In order to enjoy Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons, you of course had to remain completely still. You're like, hey guys, come on, listen. Nobody f***ing move. Number 5, Burke and hair. This is a little different, but you deserve to know. Medical schools were offering a handsome fee for deceased bodies. Yeah, so if you have any of those, bring them on out. That's great, we're gonna study those, because it's the 1800s. So now an unhealthy amount of Victorians came up with a new solution to make some money, robbing graves. Yeah, it got so out of hand that family members were actually guarding the graves of the recently deceased. Yeah, like their usher at a concert. They're like, we gotta make sure no one gets in here. But nobody goes down in history like William Burke and William Hare. I'm gonna call this an invention, an idea, something. This is dark history. This is the darkest of all. See, they wouldn't wait until the body was done living, you know what I mean? They would actually take people's lives and then rush the whole process. They took 16 victims in total between 1827 and 1828. It took 16 victims for people to start catching on to this horrible pattern. Are you kidding me? After 3, I'd be like, Hold on. The pair would lure victims to their house, they would fill them with alcohol, and then they would suffocate them. It was horrible. They had a sick system because the body needed to be in the best condition possible in order to receive the best payout from the Edinburgh University Medical School. Yeah, you can't, hurt your product and then sell it, if you know what I mean. That's horrible. But yeah, it's what they were doing. That's why they suffocated them. The Anatomy Act of 1832 put an end to this horrific idea. So yeah, that's a dark patent. We don't like that idea. Not all these are fun, cool bathtubs. Some of them are horrendous. Number 4, bird hats. Hey, there we go. Back to some fun Victorian stuff. Look, I don't have to say much about this next one here. I love a good hat. I've tried a few out here on the channel. I've worn a frontwards cap, tried the backwards. I love a beanie. Big winter guy, wear the beanie a lot. But I've never worn a bird, like a dead bird, on my head. That's something I'm not gonna do in the future. Spoilers, I'm probably not gonna go that route. Taxidermy was a hot topic back in the 1800s. Folks would rock the beaver bowler hat, and it was considered fashion. And to be fair, who am I to judge, right? It was a dangerous trend long term. Conservationists were saying that around 67,000 species of birds were all at risk of extinction due to this fad. So yeah, fidget spinners are a little nicer now than putting a dead seagull on your head and being like, hey, Merry Christmas. Number 3, holiday cards. Speaking of. Today, these holiday Hallmark cards, they go too hard, right? Like a little bit too much. Give me a blank space, I'll write some stuff, and we're good. Don't give me this haiku. What? So specific. They have a card for everything. Birthdays, weddings, your stepdad's uncle's name's day, whatever. They have everything covered, and it's great. Back in the 1800s, these holiday cards, they were brand new. This was a brand new idea. Nobody knew what to write or say or even draw. So they'd end up giving these artistic, sentimental scenes. It's literally a frog in a top hat riding a bike. It's like a carrot with a face. Haunting image really to receive on Christmas, but it's the thought that counts, right? So you'd see it and go, thank you so much. I'm gonna put this away forever. And number 2, servant stairs. Yeah, believe it or not, stairs were a common danger in the 1800s. I'm somebody who falls upstairs constantly. I fall upstairs, yeah. I have these big boots. Can't even walk in them. It's like Iron Giant over here. Houses were thrown up back then comedically fast. There wasn't a Mike Holmes on home situation. There wasn't even a building inspector that made sure, hey, things are safe. Servant staircases were also even smaller and they had less care. They were out of sight, built into narrow walls, often missing steps and cutting corners. That plus a tray of hot soup, it was next to impossible to move around without something horrible happening. And there were a lot of fatalities in these small staircases. Even today, around 12,000 people die falling downstairs a year. So hit that thumbs up and watch your step. Number 1, toilet troubles. Now the 1800s, it was a little dirty, a little nasty. You got water rocking around, splashing everywhere. You got mold growing out of your floors now. It was unsanitary to say the least. But it was also dangerous in ways that you wouldn't necessarily expect. One of the greatest 1800s inventions was the bathroom. Yeah, just gonna go take a number 2. What a brand new idea. But it took a few tries to figure out the whole, methane gas situation. Yeah, spontaneous combustion of the bathroom was weirdly common back in the 1800s. Flammable gases like methane and hydrogen sulfide, well, they would build up over time with human waste. And human waste would build up in the sewers and eventually back up into your homes. Next thing you know, you're lighting a candle and your bathroom's blown to smithereens. It's gone. And it smells terrible. Couldn't imagine a worse way to go, really. Do you want to see some strange inventions from the 1900s, from the 2000s? You want to go back in time? Tell me what you want to see down below. I'll take a peek and then, I'll do some of them. I won't do all of them. Some are kind of weird. You guys give some weird suggestions sometimes, but, Kicking off our list at number 10, seaside at home. Grab your goggles, friends. We're splashing around right off the hop. Seaside at home. It sounds fun already. The Niagara Wave Rockin' Bath. Yeah, sounds exciting. Are you tired of regular bathtubs that are stationary and or relaxing? Well, the Niagara Wave Rockin' Bath washes all of that away. The bathtub purposely designed to rock. Yeah, it keeps your blood in active circulation, apparently, medical experts say, and it only requires 3 pails of water. The patent also promises the fullest illusion of a sea or river bath, whilst promising absolutely no water will splash onto the floor. Yeah. Good joke. No way. There's absolutely no way. Imagine having this growing up. My mom would be yelling at me to clean up the floor every minute. No way. I'd get in and then immediately get back out. This thing sucks. Also, it's kind of scary. I don't want to rock around underwater. Number 9, Vigor saddle. The road to better health starts here. Horseback riding was the thing back in the 1800s, of course, but how does one practice in the comfort of your own home? Before Guitar Hero, what did we do at our friend's house, right? Vigor's horse action saddle. That's what we did. This saddle would sit somewhere in your home and take up half the space. Ideally, a place where nobody else could see was always fun. And the way they marketed this thing, they made it seem like an actual health benefit, when really it's just like something that does this to you. On the advertisement, it says it promotes good spirits, it quickens circulation. They love that circulation fact. It stimulates the liver and even creates an appetite. Ooh, I'm hungry already watching this. Watching somebody play VR like in the corner of the room, that's pretty funny. That's a weird thing to see. Imagine your roommate hopping on one of these. It's a little intimate, I'd say. Little rather intimate. Number 8, the multi-purpose cane. Again, enough with plain old canes. We're sick of them, all right? You know, the ones that help you walk around? Nah, that's old news. We're doing some new stuff in the 1800s. The multi-purpose cane has everything you need for your casual 1800s day, all in the palm of your hand. Catering to all gentlemanly pastimes, okay? Like for example, on the ad, it says, catching butterflies, sheltering from the rain, playing the flute. Okay, sure. And even a horse measuring tape, all in this cane. Nice, thank God this exists. I do all those things every single day, and now I can cut my time in half. Play the flute, measure a horse, and then Mary Poppins away. Easy. Number 7, fence cycle. Are you tired of walking along the fence all day long? If you're someone who does that, for sure. Yeah, perhaps you live on an 1800s farm and for some reason you have a really long fence with 0 twists and or turns and no nails sticking out, sturdy the entire time and completely flat. The perfectly long fence. Well, this holiday season, show your loved ones how much you respect their patellas and get them the fence cycle. Save them all that fence walking time. Hop on this weird saw contraption. There you go. Good luck. The upside down bicycle that could only work on flat fences. Nice. This patent here came from none other than Vincent van Gogh. Weird, right? Imagine this in the Toronto Van Gogh Experience exhibit. Get on these things and start wheeling around the city. You're like, this is wildly dangerous. Number 6, beauty patches. We need to bring back beauty patches immediately. Imagine Timothy Chalamet with an 1800s beauty patch on one side and Dune 2. Game over. Here's the Oscar. Take it. These patches came in all shapes and sizes, and even in this portrait from 1755, Joshua Reynolds painted Charles, the 9th Lord Cathcart, rocking a large beauty patch. Yeah, that's a pretty big one too. The guy looks like Nelly. What a look. That's confidence right there. That's a lord right there. Fabrics used in the 1800s were commonly small, tiny circles, sometimes even hearts or stars. Yeah, how fun is that? You'd think they were Arctic Monkey fans, but really, it's an 1800s star patch. Yeah. Gotcha. The reason for these patches and sometimes having more than one is because they were commonly used to cover up smallpox scars. Yeah, again, 1800s. They were made out of silk velvet and applied with glue, so pick your spot and be confident with it. The patches were dark black because they were meant to make your pale skin pop, you know, that Victorian era pale ghost look. The position of these patches could also determine your political allegiance. Yeah, who knew? Like your left, my right. Hang on, we gotta get on the same page here. Historian Joseph Addison took note of these positions when observing 2 parties from the 1800s. One party had patches on the right side of their face and the other had the opposite. Yeah, one side starts losing the argument when you're just like, I'm just gonna flip that over real quick. See ya. Number 5, radiated toys. The Gilbert U-238 Atomic Energy Lab. Nice. This toy set sure looks fun upon first glance, but when the company released this kit back in 1950, it was all but games. Gilbert, who was a successful toy maker, businessman, and even magician, always a red flag, I guess, he believed that his line of work should be fun, yet informative. Yeah, one of those nerds. He was nicknamed the man who saved Christmas after he convinced the US Council of National Defense not ban toy purchases during World War I around the holiday season, so that's cool. He really wanted to get this product out there and still make money during a war. What a hero. This set was around $50 too, which back in the day was a lot more than $50 now, and the price was justified as the set was actually radioactive. Sorry, what? That's right, the Gilbert U-238 Atomic Energy Lab contained a cloud chamber where you can actually see real alpha particles traveling at 12,000 miles a second. Yeah, imagine asking for a light bright and you get this. You're like, oh cool, radiation poisoning, that's awesome. I'd rather find coal. Next. Number 4, Birkin Bronze Radium Chocolate. This sounds like a bad time already. Radium chocolate? That's horrible. These delights were sold between 1931 and 1936, and it was praised for the effect that it had on consumers. See, instead of getting a tummy ache after downing some of the Birkin Bronze chocolate, you would feel rejuvenated. The chocolate was made in real radium water, guaranteed. That was the selling point, you know? Real radium water. That's, if you see this, you're either playing Fallout 4 or you've gone back in time. This is not looking good. Looking back now at the details that I just provided you, you can imagine the horror stories that slowly began to spread over these new delicious treats. It's the holidays, you know, you gotta be careful. Lindor always messes me up. That's a bad one. Lindor and radium chocolate both really upset my tummy. Number 3, mood rings. I'll admit it, these blew my mind at one point. I was 4 years old and I could not understand the science behind a mood ring. I was relying on these things every single day. The mood ring was a 70s invention famous for, of course, its changing appearance. How does he do it? Nobody knows, right? That's the magic of it. Joshua Reynolds and Maris Ambatz were the moody masterminds behind the whole fad. And in 1995, the pair sold 40 million rings in only a few months. Yeah, what colors are angry again? Because I'm very that color right now, just hearing that fact. Number 2. Spring spokes. There's winter tires and then there's spring tires. Here we go. This is, one of them works, one of them doesn't. Back in 1905, which didn't even know there was cars back then, automobile manufacturers tried to create spring spoke wheels to make your commute a lot smoother, right? If you live downtown Toronto, here you go. This is gonna save your day. You would hit a rock and then go boing, and then all of a sudden you would be at work. Sounds perfect. Sounds like not a hazard at all. This of course didn't last in history. We don't have these at all outside today, thankfully. Wheels were breaking under pressure. They were wobbly, which is certainly the last thing you want while you're driving to work, I assume. I don't have a car, commute kid. Spinners are sick. You want to jazz up your ride, grab some spinners, throw those on your Jeep, you're good. You see any spring wheels? Just keep moving. And finally, number 1, earthquake machine. Nikola Tesla. Of course, I have to save an invention of his for number 1. This man knew a thing or two about electricity, and legend has it he made a steam-powered machine that could actually cause small earthquakes. Yeah, sounds like a supervillain, but okay, science, I guess. Tesla's electromechanical oscillator, or earthquake machine as I call it because it's a little easier. Legend has it, it actually caused a small earthquake in 1898 in New York. Yeah, in New York too, that's like an Avengers level threat right there. Now, Nikola Tesla told this at his 79th birthday party, according to his biographer. So there's no science that support these claims, therefore, was it real? Probably not, but it's kind of fun to think about, right? The vibrations on this machine was basically a massive taser, and it caused your muscles to clench up. And, you know, ergo, things would leave your body after you'd clench, so yeah. Nikola Tesla, was he a supervillain? Comment down below. Sounds like it.
Number 10, the bullet mousetrap. You might have heard me say that and said, what? Which is exactly what I said when I saw a mousetrap that's main killing potential was to fire a lead slug Minuteman style at a small rodent. It is no exaggeration to say that the difference between this mousetrap and a musket is that a musket weighs a little bit more. The mousetrap was loaded just like a traditional musket of the time, with black powder, a lead ball, and even a percussion cap. In all honesty, I'm not sure how you go about defending this mousetrap. Textbook definition of overkill. Also, you know, there's a loaded firearm in the house with a hair trigger that a small rodent could set off by gently grazing it. I like to imagine a fun family game of, do I no longer have a sister or was that just a mouse, after hearing a small musket fire inside the home. I also had to mention that while the immediate danger of a .32 caliber lead ball finding a new home in your stomach is frightening enough, black powder being black powder is very volatile and produces a lot of energy. Fire hazard. Smokey the fire safety dog does not approve. Number 9. Tea for men. Winding the clock back to the 1800s, you'll find pictures of distinguished ladies and gentlemen. And these distinguished gentlemen have the fullest and thickest mustaches ever grown by man. Much care is needed to maintain such a manly image. So when an established gentleman goes for his morning tea, it would be rather unfortunate to get his mustache wet and ruin his dashing good looks. An invention of the 1800s beckons to solve this issue with the mustache cup. Mustache cups were invented so the chivalrous men of the day didn't ruin their grooming rituals with a cup of Earl Grey tea. The cups had a small porcelain mouthpiece with a smaller hole for drinking, while the main piece would protect the stash. It may sound ridiculous, but it almost looks like a modern travel mug. So maybe they were onto something. Number 8. Nightmare Story. I don't know about you guys, but no matter how you present them, dolls are just creepy. Have you ever noticed that when someone has a creepy doll, it's never just one? There's always a bunch of them for some reason. I don't know, I wouldn't want the room to feel safe or welcoming after all. One man in 1871 said, "I know, let's make them even creepier by having them move themselves." The creeping doll, as it was called, was a doll-like automaton that had clock-like gears to simulate real human movement, with the addition of hidden wheels underneath to aid in the doll moving across the floor. Because, you know, the last thing I need is this doll creeping into my bed at night. Whew. Number 7. Gee, this cane is heavy. As people began to settle down after imperial monarchies went the way of the dodo bird, it was a good idea in everyone's best interest to limit people carrying weapons. If people didn't have swords, it could make another revolution a little less bloody. But what's that I hear from upper class wealthy people who don't want to listen to the rules that they make? Well, how about concealed and hidden swords? Yep, that's right. Cane swords were a popular fashion accessory in the 19th century. As carrying swords fell out of fashion, royal men needed to take swords with them for self-defense, or so they thought. Even women were concealing these hidden bladed inventions in parasols. However, it was socially unacceptable for a woman to have such possessions, let alone have the ability to know such training. As time went on, the hidden compartments that held blades were replaced with my personal favorite item, a flask. Number 6. Look at all these cool chickens. Let's face it, we all went through our awkward phases in life. And if you didn't live through the early 2000s as a youth, then bands like Linkin Park and My Chemical Romance just don't hit as hard. So when trying to find the weirdest inventions of the 1800s, I felt like closing my bedroom door and playing Green Day as I dye my hair because I'm super serious about how I feel. Why do I feel this teenage angst, you ask? Well, that's because there's rose-tinted glasses for chickens. Yeah, and they're cooler than me. Ugh. Yeah, little tiny eyeglasses for chickens, but they actually have a good use. They were designed to prevent pecking and cannibalizing other chickens. Ooh. The theory goes that if a chicken was wearing rose-tinted glasses, he couldn't distinguish between blood and what wasn't. That way they wouldn't attack each other. Yet another heartwarming comfort from the 1800s. Number 5. Dawn of the punch card. With the Industrial Revolution on the horizon, many things were about to change. Probably the most obvious at the time was factories. While not the first, Richard Arkwright's Cromford Mill in 1771 is what most resembles a modern factory today. Cromford Mill was the first water-powered cotton spinning mill and initially employed 200 workers. It ran day and night with 2 12-hour work shifts, the gates being locked at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., permitting no late arrivals. Oh, he likes to keep a tight schedule. Yeah, I can see the beginnings of a modern factory, alright. All you're missing is Bezos and a couple of drones to make it modern. All jokes aside though, these early factories changed the very fabric of not only Britain, but also the world. I mean, where would we be today with all that lovely pollution and those great and fair working conditions? I bet there was benefits too. Number 4. The golden liquid. You drink liquid and then it's gonna come out of you. It's simple, it's science. But sometimes other fluids need to be drained. Sometimes you can have difficulty using the little boys' room. Personally, I'm still learning how to put down the toilet seat. I haven't quite figured that one out. How to make pee when a person cannot pee. Portly founding father Benjamin Franklin thought to himself as he was holding a kite in the rain. This is something I learned, which I didn't know, is that he invented the flexible catheter. Yep. Next time you feel a little weird because a tube is being inserted into a sensitive area, you can thank the man on the $100 bill. Invented in 1752 in order to aid his brother with bladder stones. It's strange though, you think of a guy inventing other things, but in reality, it's a really important invention and something that's very common in the medical world today. I just hope to stay healthy long enough so no tube has to go near my founding father. Number 3. Pseudo cool. Okay, so back in the 1700s, food was really hard to keep. For example, meat is packed with a salty brine in order to preserve it. It either has to be shipped overseas or last long enough through a cold and brutal winter. But plans for refrigeration were being drawn up, specifically the idea of vapor compression refrigeration. Not exactly the fridge that's in your kitchen today, considering there's still no main harnessing of electricity, which makes fridges run, but a brilliant idea nonetheless. While the fridge we know was still far away, it's crazy to think in the 1700s we had serious plans for one. While this was being developed, food was kept near lakes and snows in the winter. Runoffs from mountains were often used to keep drinks cool. I think this is something we all take for granted. I mean, could you imagine drinking room temperature milk or having a beef dinner that tastes saltier than salt? Looking back through history, it's interesting to see how humans persevere. As much as I love food, I don't know if I could stomach food from the past. Thank goodness we don't eat anything gross today. Hey man, do you have any canned cheese left? I'm kinda hungry. Number 2. Ebony. Ivory, living together in harmony. I honestly thought this one was older than the 1700s, but hey, here we are, invented in the year 1700 by a musically inclined Italian gentleman named Bartolomeo Cristofori. Unhappy with what was going on at the time, he decided to spice it up by changing out a few parts of some common instruments. And started using little hammers that strike quickly on chords and come back in hopes they would not dampen the sound. A little fine tuning here and there, and bada bing bada boom, you got a piano. I would attempt to make a joke about the piano, but let's be honest, no piano, no Elton John. No jazz, no Frank Sinatra. If you're asking me, that's a big problem. Number 1, ABCs. As someone who struggles with reading, this one makes me want to hide under my covers at night. I spent countless hours as a kid learning to read, and oh, man, the phonics lessons were brutal. And thanks to this invention, I can blame it all on the 1755 invention, the English dictionary. Yep, that's right. One of the most influential too. Written by Samuel Johnson, it took 7 years to compile all the words I can't pronounce. He was commissioned 1,500 guineas for the project, which is worth about £250,000 today. Until the completion of the Oxford Dictionary 173 years later, Johnson's dictionary is considered to be the preeminent English dictionary and a huge achievement in scholarship. I mean, you gotta give the guy credit for writing this. Imagine writing an English essay for 7 years. But then again, £250,000 for some of my writing also sounds pretty good. All I have to do now is learn to read and write. Number 10, the National Razor. What's a revolution without a little blood being spilt? Wouldn't really be a revolution, would it? France was having a hard time in the 1700s, so they needed a brand new way to get rid of pesky monarchs and anyone who isn't warming up to the revolutionary ideals. And what better way to keep people warm by cleaving their heads from their body? A man named Joseph Ignace Guillotine suggested that there was a better method for unaliving those who needed to be unalived. A common misconception is that he invented the guillotine, but rather suggested its implementation, where his name would become synonymous with such a terrible device. Basically, you got a wood frame with a hole for your noggin and a large angled blade. Blade drops down from frame and removes the head of state from the governing body, which isn't just a clever joke, as that's what happened to the last king and queen of France. By the time of its invention and the end of its use all the way up into the 1970s, yes, that's right, it was used up until the 70s, thousands of people met their doom to the National Razor. Number 9, party favors in the sky. When you think of air travel today, you think of lots of space for you and your fellow passengers, meals that are flavorful and affordable. Air travel in 2021 is a stress-free, very organized way to travel. But in the 1700s, these luxuries of the sky were non-existent, as there was no air travel. Any international travel was done by ship, which took months at a time and was not a pleasurable experience, opposite to what was described above. Two French brothers wanted to change this, or rather just get off the ground. The two French brothers, Montgolfier, developed and flew the first unmanned hot air balloon on September 19, 1783. This was shortly followed up with a manned flight by Jean-Francois Pilote de Rosier. This was a very strange invention at the time, as this was really the beginning of humans and flight. Number 8. Puckle needs his gat. Ever since black powder first made it to Europe and Europeans figured out you could make big gun that go boom, people have been trying to come up with better and faster ways to make gun go boom. In the 1700s, the biggest issue with muskets and cannons at the time was reloading, or getting multiple shots off. Loading black powder weapons isn't easy. I'd say ask a pirate, but you can't. Those kind of pirates are all gone now. So to fix the issue of the day, a man named James Puckle invented the very cleverly named Puckle gun. Basically, he just added more chambers of shot rotating around one barrel. Although his idea for the time was genius, in practice it wasn't very effective, as flintlock and black powder are really the main issue. Clumsy, lots of smoke, and does not want to work in less than fair weather conditions. Number 7. Cotton Eye Joe. Dear YouTube gods, I am sorry that history is full of not so cool things, but here at Bumblebee, I'm the queen bee, and I'm here to give the buzz to my sweet honeybees. So in the name of good morals, monetization, and not getting smited, I'm gonna talk about your least favorite S word. Back in the 1700s, America was chillin'. They just beat Britain in a war, which alone could be its own video. They were starting to build their own country, particularly in these southern colonies, using forced unpaid labor that you can't leave. Oh, and your boss can do heinous things to you because he owns you. Their economy was agricultural based and stayed that way for a long time. Tobacco being the number one crop at first, cotton was still grown but wasn't as popular due to the processing of cotton being a very labor-intensive and difficult process. This was until Eli Whitney's cotton gin, invented in 1794. The cotton gin was a machine that quickly removed seeds and processed cotton, making cotton a very valuable crop since, you know, the people harvesting the cotton are YouTube's least favorite S word. It's a brutal unpaid workforce. Now that it was profitable, cotton boomed and the South became very wealthy. While not exactly the main reason, the South getting rich off Whitney's design and did somewhat create a divide between the southern states and the northern states, eventually leading to the Civil War. Also, apparently plantation owners didn't pay Eli for his machine and he went broke. Just trashy behavior all around, man, come on. Number 6. Yes, I'm a Russian submarine commander. I actually couldn't believe this one myself, but the submarine was invented in the 1700s. Having designs and plans started in the 1500s, the first real use of a submersible vessel wasn't until 1775, named the Turtle, an acorn-shaped vessel with a crew of just one. To me, it's just hard to think that in the same century we were beginning to master flight and sea travel. I also can't stop thinking that if there was a water ride that existed, it would be pretty cool if you went underwater in like a pod, like a submarine kind of thing. Just an idea for the mouse and the corporation. Of course, it wouldn't be years until after the Turtle that the submarine would see effective use. Or have a Scottish man play a Russian submarine commander in a really good movie. Russian submarine commander. Number 5. I'm coming out of this hole, partner. We enjoy many luxuries in the 21st century. Warm houses, everyday appliances, and the freedom to shout profanities at strangers on the internet you slightly disagree with, but you give them the business anyway because it's been a bad week and you deserve it. But probably what we should all be thankful for is modern medicine. Back in the 1800s, it just wasn't where it is today. A great example of that is safety coffins. A truly grim situation. A medical doctor has declared you dead. Now you are being buried alive. Have no fear, friends, because you had enough money for a safety coffin. The coffin contained a device or means of various designs, which was to alert the living of your mistaken burial and hopeful resurrection. The very rational fear of being buried alive most likely was spun from fiction and news at the time, with the occasional case happening here and there. However, I'm of the opinion it should be a never ever kind of thing. Yeah, no thanks. Number 4. Your bad hair day has just been terminated. Oh, to live in a time of industrial revolution where machines go and go. I'm sure that all this heavy industry won't enable bad practices of corporations and usher in the destruction of our environment. Pfft, no sir! This is the age of machines, and if machines can help with one thing, it most certainly can aid in another. May I introduce you the rotary hairbrush? Why brush your own hair when an overcomplicated machine can do it for you? At the time, it kinda made sense. Machines felt like they were the way of the future. They were kind of right, but at this rate everything in the home would have intricate pulleys or a steam engine attached. Steampunk, anyone? Number 3. Full of air. The Industrial Revolution changed the world, we can't deny that. That can also be said for the steam trains. But what about pneumatic power trains? Back in the 1800s, a man named Alfred Eli Beach came up with such a design. Prior testing had proven useful enough to build a larger demonstration in New York. So he built a tunnel to test his air-powered train. It only ran a short distance, but the train held 22 people and was controlled by a roots blower nicknamed the Western Tornado. That was also my nickname in high school. Sadly, the project didn't receive much support from the government at the time, and other methods for trains eventually took over. Unfortunate, because it sounds like Alfred Eli Beach was very dedicated to the project, as he put up a very large sum of money to the project. The tunnel that housed the short train line was completed in 58 days. While he did have bigger plans for his train, it kinda just became an amusement for people. It was shortly shut down thereafter. But 58 days, that's pretty quick. I'd like to see that happen in a major city now. No way it's happening. Number 2. Get on my mongoose, bro. Looking at the Motor Scout, you can see the beginnings of what could be a 4-wheeler. Personally, I think it looks like a mongoose from Halo, but Mom thinks I play too many games. Designed by F.R. Sims in the late 1890s, it was never really meant for off-road terrain, instead to support infantry on smooth roads. Sims, understanding the annoyance of trying to ride your motorized quad cycle while someone is firing at you, placed a Maxim machine gun on the quad to return fire. Which is strange, because usually these things require a team of soldiers to operate. He also added an iron shield for a little extra protection. It is too bad that the next major conflict would have a lack of usable roads and more trenches than anything else. While it never did see combat, it was somewhat useful, and would later inspire Sims to design the first armored car. Number 1. Bro, trust me, everyone has a favorite article of clothing. For sports fans out there, it could be a lucky jersey, but back in the 1800s, there was an article of clothing no British soldier could be without: the cholera belt. What does a cholera belt do exactly? Well, it helps to prevent cholera. I've got good sources, bro, trust me. The running not so scientific theory at the time was that any abdominal issues and sickness was caused by a chilly belly. So simply make your tummy warm and voila, cholera has been prevented. British soldiers in India were often given the belts unaware of the biohazard that was an epidemic. The belts were just flannel that basically wrapped around you. It's a good thing we're not superstitious today and would never buy into such ridiculousness. Hey man, did my order of healing crystals come in? I'm getting some bad voodoo vibes at home lately, man. I totally need to cleanse that space, bro.
Starting our list off at number 10, the wall climber. Any fans of Spider-Man out there? I've been bouldering lately, and let me tell you, the wall climber could really help my game. The wall climber ideally would do just that, let the user climb any building without the need of a pulley system. Now this gecko-inspired invention may happen. It may just allow humans to climb any glass building. Finally, just the thing we need, right? All those sicknesses, we're like, nah, I want a Mission Impossible some buildings. I think that's more important here. Geckos can scale a wall no problem. They're impressive, they're cute little guys. They have these plump little toes covered in microscopic bristles. Now these bristles are called setae. They allow for these licky dudes to stay on the wall all day long. Although we know the science behind them, anything we try and test on it is far too heavy. Now this new wall climber device, however, it spreads the user's weight out evenly throughout the 24 tiles that make up each plate. It feels like a moving ladder. Apparently it's not too scary to use, although I would never in my life ever touch this thing. Terrified of heights. That would trip me out. I can't even rock climb without shaking right now, let alone scale a building with gecko gloves. No thank you. Could you do this? I don't know. I've seen Mission Impossible movies and I'm like, I could do that. I could never do that. Number 9, underwater breathing. Every time I'm watching a movie and the main character is underwater, I have to participate. I have to also hold my breath as well. You know, you're not alone, Tom Cruise. I'm also underwater with you right now. Let's do this. Let's get out of here. We've all wanted an underwater breathing apparatus at some point. We've seen it in Spy Kids or Star Wars. We grew up thinking, hoping that this was gonna happen. And maybe we're finally here. We're close, at least. Triton claimed that their artificial gills could let us breathe underwater for 45 minutes straight. The deepest you could go right now is around 15 feet, which, I mean, all things considered, not bad. This product was set to launch in 2016, but they had to refund its users, so it didn't work, but we're close. We're pretty close. Number 8, the running jetpack. Are you looking to shave exactly 20 seconds off of your mile time? Well, I have the odd thing for you. Are you also okay with wearing a jetpack the entire time you're running? Perfect. This technology was originally developed as part of DARPA's program. Now they originally wanted to make soldiers on the ground run faster, which is probably pretty intimidating with Captain America coming at you. But when that didn't plan out exactly like they hoped, they scaled back to improve performance in athletes. Now Jason Crestes, a graduate student of engineering and robotics who leads the project over at Arizona State University, they believe that this is the future of where the jetpack is going. And it looks so funny. People running this fast always looks funny. I don't know. They can now shave off 20 seconds of your mile time. Running downhill already looks so silly. I can't imagine this thing added to it. Check it out. Number 7, portable record player. Remember when iPods came out and it was like a big deal? Of course, 1,000 songs in your pocket, that's like witchcraft, right? That changed the game. I mean, even now, Spotify, it's getting better and better. Portable record players back then? Not so much. Not really the best invention, I don't think. Like I said, some of these suck. 8 songs in your pocket and they're all gonna scratch and get messed up. Back in the 80s, right before cassette players and Walkmans hit the street, this was the only way to listen to music on the go. So at one point in time, you had to use this and it looked so silly. That's why I had to include this. I don't think records are meant to be on your persons with headphones and like, what are you, Mozart? But a portable record player is not a good idea in any decade. In order to enjoy Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, you had to remain completely still even though you were outside, so it wasn't really portable. It was just, you had to stay still. That would suck. How do you dance with that? You're like, ooh, I really want to move, but I can't, or else I'll ruin the party. Number 6, radiated toys. Yeah, don't put this one on your wish list next year. The Gilbert U238 Atomic Energy Lab Set. Here we go. It sure looks like fun, doesn't it, upon first glance? Is that or an Xbox? What's it gonna be? But when the company released this kit back in 1950, it was all but games. Now Gilbert, the Gilbert, who was a successful toy maker at the time, even a businessman, even a magician, he believed that his line of work should be fun yet informative, right? Kind of like Bill Nye. He's fun, He'll swear every now and then. He'll mix it up, make it aggressive for no reason. He was nicknamed the man who saved Christmas right after he convinced the US Council of National Defense to not ban toy purchases during World War I around the holiday season. So, man who saved Christmas, for sure. He's like, please continue selling during this war. I really would like that if we kept selling things and I made money. Thank you. Christmas, the Lord giving. Great. This set also wasn't cheap. It was around $50, which back in the day was more than $50 now. The price was justified as the set was actually radioactive. That's right, the Gilbert U-238 Atomic Energy Lab contained a cloud chamber where you could actually see real alpha particles traveling at 12,000 miles a second. Yeah, how fun is that? You ask for a light bright, mom gives you this, you're like, guess I'm moving out.
Number 5, only us humans. Human beings, smart, intelligent, loving creatures, right? Well, the ones I like to be around are, and I hope the ones around you are too. Okay, where am I going with this? Well, I think we can all agree that war sucks, right? Look at Ukraine and Russia right now. What I think a lot of people don't think about is war logistics, what goes into a war effort. Every bootstrap, backpack, and bullet fired has to be counted and shipped. The weirdest thing, or perhaps the worst thing that we've done, is mass produce small arms. The Automat Kalashnikov needs no introduction. You've seen it in movies, games, and all over the news in the last 60 years. An effective, cheap, and reliable tool that's the backbone of insurrections across the world and probably will be for many years to come. The point I'm trying to make is that we can create and make such beautiful things, but so much time has gone into destroying one another. Kalashnikov is unfortunately really good at doing that. In some black markets of the third world countries, they go for as little as $100 US. It is estimated that of every firearm ever made, 1 in 5 is a Kalashnikov. Number 4, I wanted one. It should come as no surprise that my persona is that of a lumberjack. I like relaxing after a long day. I'm big and I like beer. That's how it goes. While certainly not the manliest man, you'd never find me at a My Little Pony convention. I'm just not going there. Where am I going with this? Well, if you were a young girl growing up, there's a chance you had an Easy Bake Oven. Yes, that's right. I, Big Ched, wanted an Easy Bake Oven, but as a young man, I was embarrassed to have pink. I mean, come on, I can't have pink. It's pink. Even though now I'd be totally fine with pink. I like pink cars. I think they look cool. I was a tubby kid and just wanted some brownies with icing. Can you blame me? No, you can't. However, there is something about giving your kid a little oven that's, well, strange. There's no way I should have been given anything sharp, let alone an oven. Yes, I know they're pretty safe, but still, it's a weird concept and weird thing to bring up in the boardroom for an idea. Guy walks in the room and he's like, kids, ovens, fires, put them together. What do you got? $1 million idea, let's go. Number 3, didn't sell very well, boy. I doubt many people would remember this, and in Nintendo's defense, they usually know what they're doing. Sometimes. I know I'm talking about gaming stuff again, but besides making you guys laugh, it's like the only other passion I have, man. The Virtual Boy. I wouldn't expect many to have seen it since the sales were so poor, since the console was so poor. The Virtual Boy was a 32-bit portable console that was basically a headset, except, you know, there's no straps to put it on your head, but a stand so you can play games while you sit or while you're prone. I guess that would have been cool if there was like a sniper game or something, but for classic Nintendo side-scrolling action, it doesn't really make any sense. The main selling point was the graphics. The Virtual Boy was capable of 3D, which was huge for the time. Except, it was stereographic 3D and monochrome red. Watching footage of the gameplay gives me a headache just looking at it, so I can see why laying down on your living room floor for a while, playing it would just suck. It just wouldn't be good. Number 2, Electronic Cafe. This is going to sound weird to anyone born after 1995, but there used to be internet cafes. Yeah, I know, there's some that still exist, but it's just a weird concept. Hi, come on in where you can order a coffee and browse the World Wide Web with your sticky keys. And that's not because of a typo. There's just something about sharing a PC with the whole city that rubs me the wrong way. Because I know for a fact there's some dudes in there who are rubbing themselves the wrong way in the cafe. In the 90s when PCs were becoming a mainstay in homes and offices, some folks just didn't have one yet. Or if they did, had full access to the internet. Do you remember the dial-up sound? Ooh, sound of nightmares. So coming to a place to access such modern technology made sense in the 1990s and even the early 2000s. However, in 2022, when everyone has a supercomputer in their pocket, not so much. Smartphones are really cool. It's actually pretty cool technology. Number 1, the infomercial king. Not the first to do it and won't be the last, but he may be the best. As a kid growing up in the late 90s, watching TV on a Sunday afternoon made a few things certain. I was going to have my snackies and juice. I was going to ponder what a house hippo was, I was going to be yelled at by a man with enough charisma to use OxyClean. Yes, the famous infomercial featuring the late Billy Mays. There was just something charming about his performance that made you want to clean stains easily. Infomercials are a way to shove products down your throat. Call now, but wait, there's more. 3 easy payments of $19.99. Sell, sell, sell. With infomercials, they aren't just selling you a product, they are selling the infomercial themselves. It just wouldn't be as effective if the ShamWow guy wasn't weird about his peanuts on ice cream. That's just how it goes.